Okay, today we are all about mixing paint. Now there are a lot of paint recipes out there and a lot of them I know are really fine. I'm just going to share with you the one that works for me. Now with mine you only need a few items. One is you need Floetrol. Floetrol works fantastic for me. You need your paint, a little bit of distilled water, and of course a cup and a craft stick. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to tell you is when you're using Floetrol, you always want to strain it. Right there is why. If you look, you see all those globs that come out in there? You know, a lot of people cuss that. I know, or at least I think that it's a part of why the Floetrol works so well, because as it evaporates, it really bonds together, and I think that holds your paint together real well. And if I don't pretend to know the science, so if that ain't true, it ought to be. So when I'm mixing paint, I take my cup and I fill it with the Floetrol just a little over half full. And if you'll, well, actually a little bit more even, about right there. Now to me the most important part about the paint is the consistency. If you'll look at the consistency of your Floetrol, see how that runs off the stick right there? To me, that is the ideal consistency that you want your paint to be. So when we put the paint in it, it's going to thicken it up, and then we'll need to thin it back down. So I've got that, and then I'm going to add paint. I never do exact measurements. I kind of eyeball it and go by feel. So put about that much paint in it, and then it's a matter of stirring it up and be prepared to stir a lot. Now, I was watching America's Test Kitchen today, and they were showing different ways of stirring, and something I found interesting is the way I've always stirred is like this, but they showed that if you do it with a back and forth motion, hitting the sides like this, now they were talking about beating eggs and things like that, but it seems to work with paint. It works actually quicker. Seems wrong to me, but in the times that I've done it, I found it to really be true. So you really want to work that around, make sure you get any lumps out of your paint, and get it good and mixed. Make sure you've got the color that you're going for. And then I'm always sure to scrape it off the sides of the cup because it does stick a little there. And we'll get her all mixed up. And I think that looks pretty good. It's just a little bit thick for my taste. So now we're going to take a little bit of distilled water, add it to it. Once again, I don't have an exact measurement, just kind of go by feel. Now, the back and forth motion doesn't work too well when you first put the water in there. You'll splash water all over the place, which generally does not go over well with the misses, so I don't want to do that. But you'll see how it's kind of lumpy now that you put that water in until it gets all mixed together. And if we check the consistency, see how that just rolls right off of there? Right about the same consistency the Floetrol on its own was. And that's the consistency I like. So now we'll just take it, add it to my turquoise bottle here. And I have found that pre-mixing and putting them in these bottles like this, the paint seems to last as long as you keep it sealed, which is good. If you want to come in and knock out a quick painting, you don't have to go through all of the mixing portion. That's all there is to my recipe and what I use. Once again, Floetrol, the paint. Now I will say the paint amount varies with the different brands. I have always done real well with this Artist Loft brand, and that's the one I'm used to, so that's what I keep using it because, you know, I get consistent results. And I think as much as anything you want to do, there are some paints where you have to mix it with a lot more paint, and others that you have to thin down quite a bit more. So it's going to vary by paint. But with the Artist Loft paint, this is a recipe that seems to work real well. that's all there is to it. Hope you enjoyed it. If you be sure to check out on the page, I've got a lot of other videos with different techniques and stuff that I use. So please enjoy.